Karl Mecklenburg is much like many of our companies. He got where he is the hard way by rising from a college walk-on and 12th round draft choice to an NFL career that included 3 Super Bowls and 6 Pro Bowl appearances. Join me and let's enjoy some of Karl's pro highlights.
Success doesn't happen by accident. It's not going to bounce off of somebody's foot and roll to you. There's a pattern, there's a template to success that I call my 6 keys to success. That's what we're going to talk about today. And then they're simple things. A lot like Tom's rules as a blitzing linebacker. But the great thing about them is they don't change. You know, so much of your industry is about change. It's a constant struggle to keep up with what the FCC is doing, what the investors are doing, what the technology is doing. And you're going to have a chance to hear some great speakers on those things later on. But I'm here to talk about things that don't change, that allowed your grandparents to be successful and will allow your grandchildren to be successful. We're going to talk about teamwork, with leadership being the ultimate expression of teamwork. Courage, the courage to try new things, and the courage to be decisive. Dedication, which is hard work, constant learning, refusing to quit. Desire, that's that dream, that passion, that mission. Honesty and forgiveness with yourself and self-evaluation, and then with others. And finally, goal setting. Little steps to get you to where you want to go. Some of you have been in this business for a long time, and you've made mistakes. You've had the courage to try new things, and they've gone wrong. Hopefully you didn't end up in USA Today, but maybe you did. Don't stop. Have the courage to try new things. Again and again. That's the only way you can keep up with the technology, with the changes, with the competition, because this place is all about competition. Now you're here together to learn from each other, but when you get back to work, it's about competition. Just like when the Chiefs came to town. Same thing. Now the next year, one of those guys might be my teammate. So it's not personal, but it's about competition. So have the courage to try new things, because a lot of times they go right. There are people in your companies that are skilled in areas you don't even know they're skilled in yet. But if you have the courage to try new things as a company and delegate opportunity for them, your whole team is going to move forward. So have the courage to try new things. Now, there's another kind of courage I like to talk about, and that's courage to be decisive. I run a 4.9 40. If you watch the combine, that's not fast enough to be a linebacker in the NFL. That's what the 300-pounders are running now. But I found out early on in my career that if I took the first step in the right direction before anybody else did, all the angles would change in my favor. Let me say that again, because that's not just on the football field. That's in business. That's in relationships. That's in community. If you take the first step in the right direction before anybody else does, all the angles change in your favor. All of a sudden, the guard can't cut you off. The tight end can't pin you in. Everything changes for you. The question is, how do you do that? Well, I'd submit to you, it's through preparation and anticipation. That's why you're here. You saw that highlight film. The vast majority of that was under the head coaching of Dan Reeves. Dan once a year, usually after a loss, but sometimes after a win, would look at us as a team and really think, you know what, they've plateaued. They're not making the advancements we expect them to. So he'd call us all together right before he sent us off to run a bunch of sprints, because that was his answer to most problems. He'd all call us all together, and his drawl, a lot like Jerry's drawl, except he's from Americus, Georgia. He'd sit us down and he'd say, now, man, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. You can't stay the same. Now, Dan said a lot of things I'm still trying to figure out, but I understand that. Change is inevitable. It's going to happen. But you get to decide the direction of that change. By your attitude, by your commitment, by your teamwork, by your leadership, by your courage, especially your courage to try new things and your courage to be decisive. Goals are important, and I think you all realize that. But having that courage, having that desire, that passion, that place you want to get to is really the way you start. and doing those evaluations, thinking about what's important to you long term, that's going to get you to where you want to go. I went to Augustana on a 1/3 scholarship with the understanding if I'd play well, they'd give me a full scholarship. And the scholarship's important not only from a financial standpoint, but they treat you differently. When you're a full scholarship guy, all of a sudden the other players and the coaches just treat you with more respect. So I went there, I grew the 3 inches and 40 pounds, I got good. I mean, my second year there, I led the team in sacks. I played every down on defense. At the end of the year, they had that debriefing session that every coach has. They call you into the office and sit you down, talk about what happened last year, what to expect next year. I'm thinking this is my chance. I'm going to get that scholarship. He's going to sit me down and say, Mecklenburg, you're the cornerstone of this thing. We've got to build this team around you. You've got to be a full scholarship guy. He sat me down and he said, Karl, we know your dad's a doctor. He can afford this school. We're going to take away your scholarship and use it to bring someone else in. Now, I knew where I was going. I was going to be a great football player. It just wasn't going to be at Augustana. So I left Augustana and I walked down to the University of Minnesota. When you transfer between four-year schools, you're ineligible. Ineligible to play in games, you can certainly practice. So my job that year was to be a live blocking dummy. Right? When they were playing Iowa, I had to pretend I was the guy from Iowa or Michigan or Ohio State or whoever we were playing. If I wanted to eat with the team, I had to sweep up the weight room or sweep up the locker room. Usually they put your jersey number on the laundry bag. The number on my laundry bag was number 114. There's no 114 in football, but that was me. It didn't matter. I knew where I was going. I was going to be the best ball player that ever played the game. I was the best live blocking dummy that team had ever seen. As soon as I was eligible for a scholarship, they gave me one. Man, that felt good. Have you been there? Have you, where you've got this place you're trying to get to and you reach a milestone on the way there? I don't know that there's a better feeling in life. So a week after they gave me the scholarship, we played our spring game. That's the inter-squad scrimmage that every team has. They hold it down to the stadium, invite the fans out. It's a big deal. Well, I tore a ligament in my knee in this scrimmage. A week after they gave me the scholarship, as I lay in the hospital bed after surgery, coach came to me and asked me to give the scholarship back. Have you been there? Where you work and you struggle and you fight and you finally accomplish this thing and something changes. FCC comes up with a great new idea, right? Something changes and somebody pulls the rug out from under you. Don't give up. Don't quit. That's the difference between successful organizations and those that aren't. Successful people and those that aren't. It's my scholarship. I was the best defensive player that team had ever had. I was killing them in practice. It got so bad that in an effort to have me give up the scholarship, they had me rehab my knee in the women's training room. They wouldn't let me go in the men's training room. What were they thinking? I was a 21-year-old kid. That's still my good knee. The next year I led the Big Ten in sacks, and there was no question about whether I belonged. Don't give up. Don't quit. If you've got a passion, a mission, a place you're going with your company, do not give up, even if things get difficult. That truly is a separator in many, many cases. Honesty and forgiveness and self-evaluation might be the most difficult key to success that I talk about. But if you've got a place you want to go and you want to set goals in that direction, you've got to know where you're at now. And you can't lie to yourself about it. Because if you're saying you're here and you're setting goals in that direction, but you're really over here, you're getting farther away than you started. It's a challenge. It really is. And we face it daily. And once again, humbling yourself, coming to a conference like this, knowing that you've got to learn something and something has to change is a great way to really focus in on where you're at and how to get to where you want to be. A team's like a seesaw or teeter-totter. On one side, you've got the leaders. They think long-term. They think we instead of me. They put that team passion, that team mission first. On the other side, you've got the egos. They're thinking short-term. Where's my money? How little can I do today and still keep this job? You know that guy. Right? And the rest of the team's in the middle of this thing. And it's the largest group. They can kind of go either way. So by adding or subtracting a leader or an ego, you tip that teeter-totter one way or the other. That middle group starts sliding that way. And all of a sudden, you got momentum towards success, or you've got momentum towards failure. That's how one person That's how you can make a huge difference in a large team concept. And whether it's your business, your family, your community, it's the same process. Step out of that middle group and become a leader. Or if you already are a leader, convince some people out of that middle group to join you. Give them opportunities to lead. I played football with John Elway for a long time. He was a rookie. He was a first-round pick when I was a 12th-round pick. And I learned a lot about leadership from him. Our lunchroom was a bunch of little round tables, and the same people would sit at the same tables every single day, except John. John sat at a different table every day. So his teammates would get to know what was important to him, and so he'd get to know what was important to them. He taught me that leadership was about community. That's that getting to know each other piece. And then it's also about commitment to the team passion, the team mission, and the clarity and consistency of that commitment. There was no question about what was important to John. So John Elway was the first pick of the 1983 draft. I was the 310th pick, but despite our difference in draft status, we were both captains on the team and good friends. And I learned a lot from him, like I said earlier. We had a lot of discussions, but the one I remember most was on the flight back from my last away game. It was 1994. It was that Wade must-go year, right? It was a bad year. We'd lost again. We're flying back from San Francisco. So John and I are the two oldest guys, so we're in the very back of the plane sitting next to each other. And John's got an ice bag on his knee, and he's got an ice bag on his neck. He had hurt his neck earlier that season, and even though we weren't going to the playoffs, he was playing. Because he was that guy. He was going to do whatever he could to help the team win. The ice bag on the knee was because he had torn his anterior cruciate ligament in high school. And they didn't know how to fix him back then, so he spent his whole college and pro career with that knee shifting back and forth, chewing up cartilage. So by the end of every season, his knee was a swollen mess. And he turns to me, knowing I'm going to retire, and he says, "Karl, I'm jealous." But he followed that up within 5 seconds by saying, "But I can't quit. I've got to win a Super Bowl." He'd taken that team passion, that team mission, and made it his own. It wasn't, "I got to break Dan Marino's passing records." And it wasn't, "I got to go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame." It was, "I got to win the Super Bowl." And that team was as far from winning a Super Bowl as any I'd been on. The head coach was about to be fired, and everyone knew it. The Broncos' best defensive player was retiring. And still, he had to win a Super Bowl. I played in 3 Super Bowls with John, and we lost all 3, and we lost all 3 badly, and he took most of the blame. But still, in his darkest moment, he knew exactly where he was going. He had to win a Super Bowl. The next year, they were 500. The year after that, they were 13-3. Best record in the NFL, lost to Jacksonville in the playoffs. The year after that, they won the Super Bowl. The year after that, they won the Super Bowl again. John was named the MVP, and he retired. When they handed Pat Bowlen, the Denver Broncos owner, the Lombardi Trophy after that game, the very first thing he did with it is hold it up in the air and say, "This one's for John." Because even he understood that it happened because John knew where he was going. You have that power on the teams you're on. You're going to run into obstacles. And what is success other than overcoming obstacles on the way to your dreams? You're going to run into obstacles. When you do, think about my keys to success. Teamwork with leadership being the ultimate expression. Courage, the courage to try new things, the courage to be decisive. Dedication, which is hard work, constant learning, refusing to quit. Desire, that's the dream, the passion, the mission. Honesty and forgiveness with yourself and self-evaluation and with others. Finally, goal setting, the little steps that get you closer and closer to where you want to go. Thanks for your time.